friends, how are you? This is officially take 2 because the first one recorded beautifully and then didn't save. So, hi, my name is Dara and this is my very first video here on Booktube. So I thought it was only appropriate for me to be jumping on and doing the ubiquitous newbie booktuber tag. So, got my questions, got my cuppa, and I am ready to go. So, why did you start this channel? Well, I started this channel because I have a problem, a big problem, a severe problem. You see, I like buying books way more than I like reading books. And that's not to say I don't like reading, I love reading. I just like buying them more. So, if you can see the shelves behind me, these are all unread books. And that's not even like with us counting all of the Kindle books or all of the self-help and personal development books, which live in a different room and are also mostly unread. So I started this channel because I'm very motivated by external accountability, even if it's self-imposed accountability. And I just thought creating a YouTube channel where I talk about books is an impeccable way to get me to actually read them. And I think in addition to that, I am also feeling really in need of book friends. So most of my friends and family, they are readers, they do love a good book. However, they don't necessarily like to dissect them and hear about them as much as I do. So I really am looking for friends to talk about books with. I actually studied literature at university, so I tend to go deep in my analysis and pull things apart and have a lot of very strong opinions that other people maybe are not so bothered about. So Booktube is my little outlet for sharing that. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? My dogs, they're fun and unique. My snark, that definitely comes out regularly. Other than that, I would probably say my taste in books, because I have a very varied taste in books. I don't tend to gravitate towards newer releases or very hyped up popular books. I tend to do most of my book shopping at second-hand places, so charity shops, car boot sales, cast-offs from friends and families, 99p Kindle sales on Amazon. I pick up my books cheap because when I read a lot, and as I mentioned before, I like to buy books, so I need to make sure they're cheap books because otherwise it's not a sustainable hobby. So yeah, my varied taste in books is probably one of the unique things I'll bring. You will very rarely see me reading anything that's brand new or that everybody else is talking about. I imagine most of the things on my shelves are things that will not be talked about all that much on other channels. Maybe some of them, but a lot of them not really. At least I haven't seen them talked about that much or at all, and I do watch probably too much YouTube. So, what are you most excited about for this new channel? Well, reading all my bloody books is one of them. And then also, like I said, just connecting with people who love to chat about books as much as I do. The actual dream, the dream is to make a new book bestie or two where I can just jump on Skype or FaceTime or whatever and talk all night about books and read books together and share our geeky little moments about all things bookish. That's the ultimate dream. So yeah, that's me currently advertising for new friends, so comment if you want to be one of them. Why do you love reading? So I spent a lot of my childhood alone, and when I wasn't physically alone, I felt very alone, and books were a way for me to feel more connected because I could always really relate to the stories and the characters, I felt like they were my friends. I felt like they were there for me. I felt like I could escape into their worlds for a while and just not feel so isolated and misunderstood. So for me, it was, I mean, it sounds really dramatic, but I feel like books actually saved my life. They definitely saved my sanity. And I cannot imagine who I would be today if I never discovered books and the worlds that they could take me to. What book or series got you into reading? I feel like this is a really tricky question if you've always been a reader, which I have. What book or series got you into reading? I feel like this is a really tricky question if you've always been a reader, which I have, because my childhood was so full of books that I'm not sure what came first. I do remember, like, when I was really small, my grandma reading me bedtime stories. The ones that stick out for me are the Little Grey Rabbit stories and also Paddington Bear. She used to read me Paddington Bear. And then when I was reading for myself, the ones that come to mind are like anything by Roald Dahl. Like, I loved Roald Dahl's books. Particular favourites were George's Marvellous Medicine and what was the other one I loved? George's Marvellous Medicine and Fantastic Mr. Fox. Those were my two favourites. But honourable mentions also go to Boy and Danny the Champion of the World, James and the Giant Peach, Matilda, the BFG, basically all of them. They're all immaculate. I also loved pretty much anything by Enid Blyton. So I adored all of the ones set at boarding schools. So the Twins at St Clair's, Mallory Towers. That was my jam because I had that secret burning desire to be sent away to a boarding school away from my family so I could just be having midnight feasts and adventures. And then I also loved the Secret Seven and Famous Five because I was always very curious. I was always looking for mysteries to unravel. So that just felt really fun. And it really sparked a lifelong love of all things crime drama. So thank you, Enid Blyton. And then beyond that, I suppose, as I got older, there were series like the Harry Potter series that came out. I know we don't talk about that anymore, but at the time, I loved the Harry Potter series. I also loved the Babysitter Club's books. And then probably one that, okay, I'm going to answer this question again. So one book that really got me into reading, specifically that got me interested in more challenging books, was Jane Eyre. So I remember being 9 or 10 and picking up a copy while we were on a very boring holiday in Spain. And I read that copy of Jane Eyre at least 4 times during that 10-day holiday. I loved it. I was obsessed. And prior to that, I'd only really written books that were specifically written for children. So this was like my first classic. It was my first like adult book, and it opened up this whole new world for me. And I think that's where my love of like real literature and complex characters came in. And like imagine my glee when I was doing my degree many years later and discovered that Jane Eyre was one of the books that we were going to be studying in depth. It was like, it was meant to be. It was meant to be. What questions would you ask your favourite booktuber? I would ask, if you were going to be known for the rest of your life as the lover of one single book, which book would you choose and why? So, if there are any fabulous booktubers watching this video here, then leave your answer in the comments below, because I would love to hear what anybody would say, not just my current top booktubers. So tell me, what challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? My reluctance to edit. I do not enjoy video editing. It's not that I can't do it, it's just that I really don't want to. I have done a bunch of editing as part of my job, so I run my own business. I'm a business and life coach, and a big chunk of that is like creating my marketing content and creating training videos, so a lot of editing has to happen. But it's just not my favourite thing to do. Like, it doesn't feel fun. It doesn't feel anywhere near as fun as reading books or buying books or talking about books. So that really is going to be my biggest challenge. Like, I'm not worried about coming up with ideas. I'm not worried about staying motivated. It really is the editing thing that's making me think, ugh. But we'll see how we go, right? When did you start reading? Family law has it that I could read by the time I was like 1. Not whole books, obviously, but words. It's possible that that's true because every single member of my family is a teacher, so I imagine they were trying to teach me to read very young. I do know that when I was at nursery school, I'd read all of the books that were in the nursery, so they had to go and borrow books for me from the primary school, which I'm sure made me so popular among teachers and parents alike, that I was that precocious little shit in the corner reading advanced books. I was basically Matilda. I was Matilda, but not so able to make amazing pancakes at the age of 5. Where do you read? To be honest, I read pretty much anywhere because I take a book with me everywhere. Again, going back to my school days, I used to read fiction underneath my desk at school. I used to sit on a bench at break times and just read books. I used to read on the bus. I used to read on my lunch breaks at work. I have got a book out on a night out before. Like, I am that bitch. But nowadays that we are living in a post-pandemic world, I mostly read on the sofa or in the bath. I look like there's nothing more decadent and delightful than getting in a bubble bath with a new book and just staying in the bath until you've read the whole thing cover to cover. Obviously, you do need to top up the hot water once or twice, but it's just a dreamy way to spend an evening. I also like to read before I go to bed, but I don't do a ton of reading in bed. And then I also listen to a fair few audiobooks, so typically I will do those while I'm doing things around the house, like gardening, cooking, cleaning, walking my dogs, that sort of thing. What kind of books do you like to read? I have a very varied taste, and I often go through phases of really wanting to read one particular genre. So probably my one true love, like if I had to just pick like one type of book to read for the rest of my life, it would probably be something along like the crime mystery avenue. But I do also love a good romance. I don't like anything that's like really like obvious and two-dimensional and tacky, but I do love a good romance. I also love anything that is historical, so any kind of historical fiction pretty much I love. I've always been passionate about history. I think it's that like curious mind thing. I just like to know about like different times and different cultures and all of that good stuff. And magical realism, that's another type of book that I really love, because I love all things witchy and magical, but I just cannot get on board with these like epic fantasy series like where there's a complex world. Like if I have to learn about a new world, I'm just a bit like, can I be bothered? I much prefer feeling like those magical books could be real. So if it's set in our world and they're just magical elements, like that for me is like top drawer, because I want to believe that witches are real. I want to believe that like magical cakes can make you fall in love. Like I want to believe in all of those things. And so if the setting feels very realistic, then I just buy into it way more. What does your book collection look like? Well, it looks like this. These are actually new shelves that have only been up for a couple of weeks, and I absolutely love them. The ones on the very top shelf are the only books I own that I've read. Everything else is unread. Then in my office, I have shelves of business and personal development books. On my Kindle, I literally have hundreds of unread books. In my Audible account, I think probably 80 unlistened to books. So I have an extensive book collection. But this is like the prettiest section of it right here. So that's me with my first official Booktube video. Hello, how did it go? Nice to meet you. And I'm sure I will catch up with you all in the not too distant future, because I have plenty of ideas of more bookish things to talk about. So I'll see you then.